So guys, Call of the Wild now has cryptids in the game, and man, what a way for EW to drop them. Scotland was just released on the 9th of December, and here we are a week later, still not knowing much about the Wild Haggis. EW has kept their lips tight and has kept the community in the dark. So in today's video, I'm going to go over all of the information we already know about these little creatures, as well as go over some of the theories on how to get one onto your map. If you're new to the channel and are enjoying the content, please make sure to subscribe. And with that guys, let's go ahead and dive right in. So before we delve into the theories guys, let's go ahead and go over what we already know about the Wild Haggis. Firstly, let's go ahead and look at the description for the Wild Haggis in the Codex, which is found in the Wildlife section right here. Just scroll all the way down, and right here you will see Wild Haggis. Long the subject of folklore, the Wild Haggis is said to roam around the misty slopes of the Scottish Highlands, swift, shy, and oddly fragrant. Accounts describe it as small, shaggy, and quick as a darting grouse. However, no two witnesses ever agree on the details. While science continues to roll its eyes, the legend remains woven into Scottish culture. The national dish, haggis, is often jokingly claimed to be made from this elusive creature, though in truth it's a hearty mix of sheep's offal and oats. Whether myth or marvel, the Wild Haggis endures as Scotland's most elusive game. So it seems like the haggis is a piece of Scottish folklore as well as a national dish. And now that we have gone over the folklore a bit, let's get into some information about the in-game haggis. It does say that the Wild Haggis is a Class 2 species, which you can see confirmed here in the Codex and on the harvest screens of people who have gotten one. It seems that they also have a scoring system, since some found have been silvers and others found have been golds. They make gold at level 3 and level 4, so it's safe to assume their max level is 5 medium. I have also heard from the people who have gotten a haggis that their diamond score is 57, and you can actually see that here in this screenshot. As of right now, the haggis has 5 known fur types, those being the crested brown, the bald calico, the furry tawny, the furry charred cinnamon, and this one's in another language which translated to a blonde crest from French, so I imagine it's something along the lines of crested blonde, since the other one is called a crested brown. I also want to mention that all of the other haggis harvest screens seem to have a similar cash range, around 3,000 in-game cash, except the crested blonde, which unfortunately leads me to believe that this one is modded because of the big difference in cash. They also seem to have no trophy organs and instead seem to have the actual haggis dish found in Scottish folklore for their internal organs, which is pretty dang hilarious. Multiple feed zone times have also been discovered from people that have gotten them, and the ones discovered have been from 6 to 8, 8 to 10, and 10 to 12. As of right now, no drink times have been discovered, and all haggis that have been discovered have spawned in the High Rig and Famer regions, and all but one has been discovered on solo player, with the exception of one being found in multiplayer on December the 16th, 2025. It has also been said around the community that the haggis have mainly been found outside of outposts, and players have heard a strange call when fast traveling around the map. It seems that the haggis have a warning call that sounds much like a bagpipe, which I will now play in this clip. What an interesting sound. And now that we have gone over everything that we know about the Wild Haggis in game, let's go ahead and get into some theories on how to get one onto your map. So the first thing I want to brush up on about the Wild Haggis would have to be how it has been portrayed in the story missions. I went onto my solo player map to progress in the mission line since I heard there was a mission about the haggis from the community, and I wondered if there were any clues that could lead towards how to get one, and if so, could those be found in the storyline? And I will say that I definitely found some interesting things. But before getting further into this part guys, I want to provide fair warning that this section contains mission spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I'll be putting a timestamp down below for when the spoilers are over. So now I am going to play a clip of some of the mission dialogue that first caught my attention about the wild haggis.
Hunter, a majestic beast found only here in Scotland. Typically, one leg is longer than the other to aid them in scampering round mountains, which makes breeding a challenge, so they requisition the help of an opportune hillock. Regardless, in just a few days, you'll join the ranks of the truly legendary.
So the first part of this dialogue starts off by saying that the haggis is the most elusive quarry of the Highland hunter and that it can only be found in Scotland. This leads me to believe that you can only obtain one of these things on Tournishin, which is more or less a given since the haggis is a part of the Scottish folklore, so that makes sense. One thing that really stuck out to me about this dialogue, though, is that he says it's the most elusive quarry of the Highland hunter. And let me tell you why this catches my attention. All of the haggis currently found have been located in the top 2/3 of the map. Now, this might not mean anything, and maybe you can find it anywhere on the map, but it's still interesting to think about. He then goes into saying that typically one leg is longer than the other to aid them in scampering around the mountains. So that's another interesting thing to me as well, because of the previous phrase that mentions the highlands. Most of the mountainous regions are found in the top 2/3 of the reserve, which is where all of the currently obtained haggis have been found. So this might be a clue that you can only find them in the mountainous regions, since it would be their natural habitat. Of course, this is all just speculation. Finally, he ends off the first part of the dialogue by saying, regardless, in just a few days, you'll join the ranks of the truly legendary. I would imagine he is saying here that only the truly legendary hunters have obtained a haggis, which could very well indicate just how rare these things are. However, a major thing that stuck out to me about this piece of dialogue was him saying, in just a few days. This leads me to believe that maybe you have to spend a certain amount of time on your map to see one of these little creatures. Maybe consecutive time spent on your map is a trigger for how these things spawn, because as you can see here from this message in the community, it states, so I think the stuff that you can guess is easy to guess. The stuff that you'll never guess is like impossible, because it uses a spawn system that we have never used in-game before. And as far as I know, we have never had anything that spawns based off of a factor like that, so I would say that it's worth considering. As for how much time you have to spend on the map, I have no idea, or if you even have to spend consecutive time on the map or not, since I have no idea how much time each person that has gotten a haggis has spent on their map. But I will say that looking at the codex from this person, they were on their map for at least 3 hours before finding one of these things. But do you have to spend 3 in-game days on the map, which is 18 hours, before seeing one of these things? Or is time not a factor at all? And now we're going to be moving on to another piece of dialogue I found interesting in the story missions, which I will be playing a clip of now.
Thought it might help if we went through making bait for the haggis. Now, you might not know this, but the wild haggis is a carnivore. Loves eating deer, their natural prey in fact, so let's get ourselves some of that.
So I won't go too in-depth here, but I will say the mentioning that the wild haggis is a carnivore that likes to prey on deer species is interesting. There are currently 4 deer species found in Scotland: the roe deer, the red deer, the fallow deer, and the sika deer. Looking at these 4 hotspot maps, we can see that all deer species excluding fallow are found in the top 2/3 of the map. Could this be another hint pointing to where we should be looking for these creatures? Or maybe you have to go out there and shoot some deer to attract one. We can also see in the codex here that there is a deer species in the same codex as the haggis, but of course, this could mean nothing. Moving on in the storyline, we are tasked with the mission of attracting and shooting what was meant to be a real haggis. It is mentioned to us that haggis are attracted to the sound of a bagpipe, and we actually get to play one in hopes of luring one during this part of the mission. We then also have the chance to track what appears to be real haggis tracks, but unfortunately none of that led us to actually spot a wild haggis. Instead, we end up shooting a weird looking hat out of a tree. And by the way, something important that you need to know about this mission is that in order to complete it, you have to make sure to examine the very last track before getting to the tree where the weird looking hat is, this track right here. Otherwise, the mission will get bugged and you won't be able to progress any further without fast traveling somewhere else and returning to the same area. I didn't really find any notable clues in this mission, but since it is about the haggis, I felt like it was worth mentioning. After this, I continued with the mission line, which unfortunately got bugged on the Missing in Action story mission that you can see right here, that I have completed all of the steps, but I do not have the next prompt. And it seems like this mission is bugged for a lot of other players as well. So unfortunately, I was not able to further research the missions without messing with my files, which isn't something that I'm inclined to do. I have also heard rumors that maybe the haunted house has something to do with the haggis spawn, so I'm just going to put up a couple of screenshots from the community here, since I can't say much about it since I wasn't able to do the mission for myself. So apparently, Ben and Vivi from Call of the Wild were playing a game where one was telling the truth and the other was telling a lie. This is what was said. So, if one of you always lies, and the other one always tells the truth, I'd like to ask both you and Vivi, do the two doors that make the shotgun noises at the haunted house and the door shutting have anything to do with the haggis? One of you can lie, but the other one can't, right? And then Ben says, the haunted house has nothing to do with the haggis. The question then goes over to Vivi, where she says, the number 2 at least has a nice ring to it, which is interesting. She gives a very vague answer here. Overall, this interaction is pretty interesting, so one of them is telling the truth and the other is telling a lie, but based off of my speculation, I would have to go with what Ben said to be the truth. The haunted house has nothing to do with the haggis, because we have seen in the community that some people have gotten the haggis without completing any of the story missions, actually. Nevertheless, I will say that this is an interesting theory for sure, especially since I feel so many hints are given to us through the storyline, and it is said here that we have tried to give you a mission animal this time, but in a different style. I don't know if I believe this part here, since a lot of the people that have found the wild haggis haven't completed any of the missions, and one was even found in multiplayer. Overall, the phrasing that's used in the story missions is interesting, and while you might not need to complete missions to get a haggis, the storyline could very well be providing us with clues on how to obtain one. Now let's move on to some theories that move away from the main storyline. So, since I think that maybe the haggis spawns based off of cumulative time spent on the map, let's talk about the people who are boar grinding at the moment. Surely enough time has passed for grinders to see one. If they can be a random spawn from anything on the map, why aren't the haggis spawning off of the wild boars? Also, why have no haggis spawned on the bottom part of the map? One theory that I have is that maybe resetting the time could be affecting the haggis spawn in some way. Maybe you have to have enough time spent playing on the map while just running around, not changing the time. Something interesting was said from Vivi in the official Discord server, which states, you have to be delusional to spawn the haggis. That's the secret. And this wording is pretty interesting. I'm going to read off a couple of messages of speculations to this message here from Vivi, since this isn't my original, idea. The delusional thing, I think, has to do with the lack of sleep IRL, because you can become delusional and hallucinate things that aren't there. Now, I would have to say that this is definitely an interesting take, and maybe this backs up why a lot of boar grinders aren't seeing the haggis, and why most of them have been found in the top 2/3 of the map. When grinding, you are usually spamming time resets, so maybe not changing the time is actually a factor for getting one to spawn on your map. It might not be the case, but it's still interesting to think about. I'd also like to talk about a theory that I've heard from Scarecrow's video, in which he states that maybe the haggis is a normal animal, and that there might be a set number of them, like 5 or so per map. Personally, I think that if this were the case, more would have been found in multiplayer throughout this last week. So far, only one wild haggis has been found in multiplayer, so I don't really believe this set number thing to be true. I personally believe that the haggis is a spawnable animal that needs some kind of a requirement, or multiple requirements, to be met before one shows up on your map. So let's go over what we gathered here. It seems like most haggis have been found in the top part of the map, mainly by people who have been playing on solo player. Most haggis have been found outside of outposts, and players have heard them making a call when fast traveling that sounds a lot like bagpipes. We have seen a wild haggis in a codex where the person was on the map hunting for 3 consecutive hours. Changing the time might affect the haggis spawn, which can explain why Vivi said we have to be delusional to spawn one, and could explain why boar grinders aren't seeing them. And then finally, wild haggis have been killed by players who have completed missions and by players who haven't. Completing missions doesn't seem to be a trigger for the haggis spawn, in my personal opinion. Overall, these are all interesting factors to take into consideration when figuring out how these guys spawn. It has already been said that this creature has a spawn system that has never been used in the game before, so really anything goes at the moment. I just hope that we can see more haggis posted around the community and more players willing to share information about their experiences. And hey, maybe even spawn a haggis of our own, who knows? But guys, that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the content, and let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on my theories and what are your thoughts on the wild haggis. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Alright guys, talk to you later. Bye!